I'm April.
And I'm Caroline.
And this
is your Bloody Happy Hour.
Caroline, are you ready for this?
This is your newest guilty pleasure.
It's the bloodiest part of your week.
Did we say something about it also being happy hour?
Show did.
Because we about to be sipping on some murder. Bloody Happy Hour.
Hey y'all, this is April.
Hey, it's Caroline.
And it's Thirsty Tuesday?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Works for me.
And we got another Q&A for you guys. We have another famous guy on the phone. I will let him introduce himself. Can you tell us who you are, guest?
Yeah, sure. I'm Walter Reaves, and I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Waco, Texas, and have been here for a while.
Okay. So we're going to ask you to take it back to 1982. Are you ready for that?
Sure.
Okay.
So let's see. Tell us who. What,
Number 2.
Yeah. So tell us who you were and what you did in 1982.
In 1982, I was a almost brand new attorney who, at the time, my office was in West. But I was a brand new attorney and handling criminal cases from time to time.
Okay. And how did you get lucky enough to become David Wayne Spence's attorney?
I originally got involved with him because he had been charged with an aggravated assault against a young man who I did, Darren. Anyway, he'd been charged with an aggravated assault, and I ended up getting appointed to handle that case.
Is this the assault that he committed with the Melendez brother, and he forced the boy to give one of them, I think not Tony, the other one, Gilbert, oral sex, and they held a knife to him? Or is this another case?
That would be the case.
Okay.
He and Gilbert were both co-defendants in that case.
Okay, so I'm just going to recap our audience really quick. And so if you didn't know, we dropped, for the first week of the year, we dropped the Lake Waco Murders podcast. And what we basically did for part 1, we told the story up until they got convicted. Okay, so it was just the facts that we came up with, a lot of stuff from the Careless Whispers books, and Mr. Hunt told us what he thought about the Careless Whisper book. And then part 2, which dropped the second week, so it was actually today that we're recording, but that kind of blew everything up, and everything that happened after that trial with Juanita White and how the whole investigation come into question, and we kind of just blew it all up. So today is, now they're going to listen to y'all's perspective as his lawyers, because it's a lot of back and forth on if they're guilty, if they're innocent. And I feel like the city has been divided for a while about, not divided, but people were when we did it at our book club, half of us thought he was guilty, half of us thought he was innocent. So we just wanted to get your feedback. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about that case, and then what your initial case with him, and then what you thought of David. That was your first initial meeting of David. So what did you think about him as a person for that case?
It's hard to remember what my impression was back then, the first time I met him. I was a pretty brand new attorney, so I really spent a lot of time on it. There really wasn't much about what they did. It was sort of a question of of why they did it. But I mean, as far as the facts of that case, I mean, there really wasn't much doubt. It was there was a whole lot more to that case just because the Lake Waco investigation was ongoing, and by that point, he had become a suspect, and so there was a lot of questions about the contact that was going on and the attempts that were being made to try to get information from him and other people.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And he was convicted on that initial case, right? So like 90 years?
Yes, he
Okay.
was. Yeah, it went to trial and he was convicted and got a pretty lengthy sentence.
And then why was his sentence so much bigger than, say, Gilbert's? And I think I remember Gilbert got 7 and David Wayne Spence got 90.
If I remember right, Gilbert ended up just taking a plea deal.
Okay.
David actually went to trial and got sentenced by a jury.
Oh, wow. Okay. And did you ever represent the Melendez brothers?
Depends on which period of time you're talking about. Back then, no, I never did have anything to. I didn't represent them. They each had separate counsel.
Okay. Caroline?
Yeah. So what did you think whenever you found out Truman was working at the jail, talking to David all the time?
It was a pretty big concern. I can't remember everything that we did, but I know we brought it to the attention of the court a few times, and we're doing what we could to try to basically get him to stop.
Yeah, and that was the time in the beginning where David just thought Truman was his friend and was just talking to him and was lonely and just kind of telling him all his business, correct?
Correct.
And then you warned David to stop, but he still didn't?
I mean, it wasn't so much what David was saying, because he didn't really say anything incriminating, and they never did get anything to use against him. But it was more just a concern that he obviously was a prime suspect in the Lake Waco murders, and that they were really putting a lot of pressure on him, and really we later found out putting a lot of pressure on everybody to try to get information to solve it.
Okay.
He wasn't the lawyer?
Okay, so from what we read, you weren't his lawyer for the actual Lake Waco murders, because that was the Hunts. But how closely did you follow the trial and the case? And then what is your opinion on the trial and the case?
I mean, that's accurate partly and not accurate partly. I didn't represent him on the first trial because Russ and Hayes Fuller represented him on that.
Mm-hmm.
After he got sentenced to death, though, they decided that he needed to get another death sentence. And so by that point, Russ I think, had all he could take of just the way he was being treated. And so I ended up getting appointed to handle the second.
That's right. I think.
Got
Okay.
transferred to Brazos County.
So what was your expectation going in? Were you hesitant at all?
I mean, hesitant in what? I mean, I don't know about hesitant. I think like a lot of people thought that it was just a gigantic waste of time.
Okay.
To try to get 2 death sentences on somebody. I don't know that that's ever been done here before, and probably never will again.
Right, because he got death for Joe Montgomery, and I think the second one was for Kenneth Franks. But I don't remember what did he get for Raylene Rice, or did we not go that far?
Yeah, they didn't. I think they just ended up. can't remember whether they dismissed it and I can't remember what happened with that one, but it was after the second death sentence. They didn't. That was the end of the prosecution.
Okay.
Do you think that he was convicted on his past and like his bad boy demeanor and not actual evidence?
No, I think he was convicted on jailhouse snitch testimony.
Snitches
I mean, his
stitches.
attitude and behavior didn't help a lot, but I mean, it was the snitch testimony that really got him, at least in the first trial.
Okay. So were you being a lawyer for David Wayne Spence? Like, were you just being the lawyer that you are, or did you actually think he was innocent?
I mean, I was obviously his lawyer, but I always believed that he was not the one who killed him.
Okay. Do you believe the Melendez brothers were?
No, I don't think any of them were. I think they just got all wrapped up and sort of stuck together.
Okay. And then, do you have a favorite suspect for?
You know, it's been so long, and I've looked at it so many times. No, I don't have a favorite suspect. I mean, there were several.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's about the same thing Mr. Hunt said is it's been so long, you don't remember the names, and then there just wasn't evidence on really anybody, including the people that got convicted for it. Okay, so post David Spence trial, right? So they already had the trial for David Spence and the Melendez brothers, but now here's a new murder a couple months later, and that's the murder of Juanita White. And then two other names come into play, and that's the Calvin Washington and Joe Williams.
Yes.
Tell us your role in this whole murder and situation with those cases.
I mean, I ended up getting appointed to represent Joe Sidney Williams.
Okay. And then there was so like you appointed, you mean when they say, what's it called? If you cannot afford an attorney, we can appoint you one?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you get a choice in like do you have to take it on or can you pass it, or I don't know how that works? I'm just curious.
I mean, sort of. I mean, you have a right of veto, but generally, if a judge is going to appoint you on something serious like that, they generally, I mean, most people aren't gonna say.
Okay. And so what did you think when they started bringing this bite mark evidence against Williams and Washington at this time?
I mean, I thought it was just a bunch of crazy stuff.
Okay.
Stuff.
And same thing with David Spence's trial and the bite marks, and the testimony of the odontologist.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, his was even crazier, I think, than Joe Sidney and Calvin's, just because they were. There was always a question about whether what they were looking at was really a bite mark.
Right. Okay, so the name Fred Dannon came up later, and so tell me about how you kind of teamed up with him. And then how did Vic Feazell's wife, Bernadette Feazell, end up being on y'all's team?
Fred was, he started in writing a book on, just on the Lake Waco murders. Sort of as part of that, you couldn't really separate the Joe Sidney Williams and Calvin Washington story from the Lake Waco story. So he got involved in that, and just through his investigation and sort of digging through what he looked at, he thought there was a chance and started looking at the evidence and realized that there was some stuff out there that might be able to be tested.
Okay. And do you remember what that was and who they wanted to? Is that who we were when we were trying to test DNA for Tony Melendez towards the end? Is that what we were trying to match up with?
No, because the Tony Melendez stuff was actually the Lake Waco.
Right. Okay.
This was Calvin and Joe Sidney, and David's mother had been sexually assaulted, and so there was a sexual assault exam done, and there was evidence collected as part of that, and just by the grace of God, it was still available and able to be to actually be tested, because it was back pre DNA days when the cases was tried, so there wasn't DNA testing done at the time.
Right. Okay. And so then they ran the DNA and it didn't match Washington or Williams, so they eventually got out. But the guy whose DNA it did match, the Benny Carroll guy.
Yes.
Okay. What is your recollection on him?
This was, when Juanita White was murdered, it was obviously a big deal. She at the time had been coordinating, or she'd been in contact with several of the witnesses who testified against David at trial, who had contacted her and told her different versions of what I said wasn't the truth. They basically promised me stuff and got me to say what they wanted me to say. So she was pretty actively involved in trying to work on getting David cleared and trying to establish his innocence. So there was always there was a little bit of suspicion that the murder may have been tied to that. And there was even more suspicion when it was obviously a Waco case, so it was a Waco Police Department case who would normally investigate it. And while they were there starting their investigation, Vic Fazell and Truman and some other people, or maybe just them, but anyway, Vic and Truman showed up at the residence, basically kicked Waco PD out. Story is they went in the house and nobody really knows what they did. But they ended up, eventually they came out, they took over the case, cut Waco Police Department out of it, which created just all sorts of issues. It was a time when Waco Police Department and the District Attorney's Office were pretty hostile to each other. There was at that point, Waco police officers were actually bringing lawyers to the grand jury whenever they were called to the grand jury, because they were threatening to prosecute them for getting involved and trying to do anything on the Juanita White case.
Mm-hmm.
But J.R. Price was the lead investigator who stayed. I mean, he worked. He still did some work on the case. He had a suspect who was had been arrested, and he had a history of breaking into elderly women's houses and sexually assaulting them.
Okay.
So pretty good suspect for a murder of a elderly white woman who had been sexually assaulted. And so that's where that name came from, was from J.R. Price's original suspect in the case. He had died in the meantime, and so they had sent his body up to Southwest, and Um, so it was still available to test it, which we were able to get it and test it, and sure enough, it was his DNA.
So you think that is just a coincidence and it doesn't have anything to do with the Lake Waco murders? From what I read, it kind of happened when she had found out some new evidence about that could maybe raise David's guilt or innocence in question, and then she was killed a couple days later. So do you think it's random?
I mean, it is. No, I don't think it's random. Well, I don't think it's that dramatic.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was. I don't think it was a matter of I've got this like bombshell piece of evidence, and 2 days later I end up dead. I think she'd been collecting this evidence for a while because it didn't really take a lot of the snitches long to start recanting and going back on their stories, and so she had been collecting that. That was the speculation as to why the district attorney's office took over the case, was to have control over whatever she had and whatever she may have found that would have been in her house.
Okay.
But but I don't think anybody ever thought there was that. I mean, it was, I think, just a completely random coincidence that Benny Carroll was like a strange guy who, unfortunately, she just lived in the wrong place, and he ended up sexually assaulting her and killing her.
Do we know why he committed suicide? Do we know that?
I mean, the story I have is from JR, and I mean, obviously, nobody knows, but according to JR, Benny was pretty vain and really really thought he was a good-looking guy, and he was either combing his hair or brushing his teeth and holding his gun at the same time, and he just accidentally shot himself.
What? That is random. Wow.
Luck is not on your side.
Benny.
Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I mean, it makes a really good story.
It does.
Yeah,
we'll keep it. We'll keep it in. Have you worked with Russ Hunt or Vic Fazell since these murders?
I've worked with Russ a bunch because we've tried several capital cases together. No, I haven't worked. I've never done anything with Vic.
Okay.
I actually really wasn't on speaking terms with Vic until
probably like a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but I mean, he's like most people. He's changed over the years.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so taking it to the Tony Melendez, because if I read right, you were a part of maybe trying to get him acquitted or getting his DNA ran so that maybe he can get out of jail. And this was like most recent, like in the 2000s, like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, that would be correct. We were trying to sort of take a long shot and see if some of the evidence that was still out there on the Lake Waco cases could be tested to clear and exonerate him. And I mean, it would have cleared and exonerated everybody if we would have been able to do it.
And so was there just no DNA to test is what I read?
It's not a lot. It was, there wasn't a lot. It was going to be, it was going to be a long shot, but I mean, there was still evidence out there.
Okay. And so what prevented him from that being done? Is it just because he died too early or?
Because he died too early. Yeah. I mean, it was an ongoing battle of who to test and how to get the testing done. And he just unfortunately didn't live long enough to see anything done.
So would we not continue the process just to exonerate him for like in his death for his family, or get some answers for the family? Like, I guess when they die, do we just, okay, well, let's close that folder and move to a next one?
I mean, there actually, there were some attempts. I think, you can. It just, you need somebody to sort of press it. There was a civil firm in Austin that got involved that was trying to do something to pursue, but they'd been hired by David's son.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know what happened. I mean, that case eventually died out.
Yeah, I think they had to close down.
Yeah, I mean, it was the idea was a wrongful death case for prosecuting and convicting David, sentencing him to death.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So do you think there's a chance that David Wayne Spence would have gotten out, or at least gotten a new trial, if he was granted that last stay? I know those lawyers out of Austin, they had did all these things, then he got a couple of stays, and so he got to live longer. But then that last stay, that it wasn't granted, and so he was executed on April 3rd of whatever year that was. Do you think that if there was more time, that there would have been enough evidence to either at least get him a new trial?
Man, that requires a lot of speculation. I don't really know. I think there's a chance, yes.
Okay.
I don't know how close they were to being wrapped up with everything they needed to wrap up and prove what they needed to prove. But I know there was definitely a lot of work that had gone into it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Side note, were you we're going off to
Sorry.
Kenneth McDuff. Oh, April's joking. We're going to go off to Kenneth McDuff. So were you a part of anything with his case? And if so, tell us everything.
Yeah, I got appointed to represent Kenneth on his on the murder case of I forgot her name. The convenience store clerk, Melissa
Northrup.
She was that was our first episode that we did, was Kenneth McDuff.
Okay.
I think it was Melissa Ann Northrup. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yes, tell us what you think about Kenneth McDuff.
Kenneth was not a very nice person.
Not a good guy? Not a good guy? No?
He was definitely not a positive role model.
Not a good role model. That's shocking.
So, did you think Kenneth McDuff was guilty?
Actually, that's...
So he's a role model, stand-up citizen.
Yeah, the whole story about Kenneth is that he is committed just a horrible murder up in either Tarrant County or Dallas. Got sentenced to death, had his sentence commuted when everybody's sentence was commuted, and then ended up getting out of prison because they bribed a parole officer, a parole board member. And then he obviously went and killed several other people after he got out. But yeah, the interesting thing or the strange thing about Kenneth is, I don't really have much doubt that he murdered the girl at the car wash in Austin, and he murdered a few other people because he actually led them to their graves. I never thought he committed the murder of Melissa Northrup.
And where was she found, or was she never? Where was she found? Is she the one that was found in the dump site?
Yeah, she was found in a gravel pit dump site, just Dallas, Fort Worth, sort of that area.
But we didn't. But he didn't lead. He led them to the other bodies, but not to her. Correct?
Oh no, he led. I mean, it was. I mean, he made a deal right before he was about to be executed to like disclose the location of several bodies in return for the Senate. A Senate was in federal prison, and so he got his sentence reduced in return for Kenneth taking him to several bodies.
Okay.
Wow.
If y'all don't know the Kenneth McDuff story, you should tune in to episode 1. It was our very first episode, so y'all got to give us a little break on that one. It was our very first episode. Okay, so Kenneth McDuff, David Wayne Spence, do you have any more notorious cases? I guess your job, all of them are probably notorious, but what's one that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you can get much more notorious than.
I mean, those are some pretty good ones. Those are some pretty good ones.
I mean, he was at one point like made the cover at Texas Monthly as like the most hated man alive, and he was. People in prison really disliked him because after they found out what had happened and how he had gotten out, and they, the parole board member ended up getting prosecuted and sent to prison himself. But it was the sort of the trigger for revising the whole parole process, and so he basically screwed up everybody who was in prison then and after, because they drastically changed the parole laws.
Oh yeah, and it was his family that bribed. It was like $20,000 or something, right?
I can't remember that. I can't remember the name, but yeah, it was the mother.
Wow.
Who I don't think they ever. I mean, they prosecuted the parole board member, but I don't think they ever did anything to the family.
Wow.
Book club.
Okay, so you came to my book club for the Jody Bryan case. We read the book. I can't remember the book. And this was when you were like knee deep in his case. And so we haven't covered it on our podcast yet. It will be a future episode. Would you give us a little bit about the Jody Bryan case? And then he is out now. So tell us what happened with that. Just enough to make our listeners' mouth water.
I mean, Joe Bryan was he was a principal in Clifton who was convicted of killing his wife. Part of his conviction was based on some forensic evidence on blood spatter, which we were able to pretty well successfully discredit in a writ hearing, along with some other stuff. We ended up losing the writ hearing, but there was just, and we don't really know, but I mean, we ended up losing the writ hearing, but he ended up being released on parole, which is where he is now and doing very well.
Wow. And is he kind of sticking to himself? Do you think he'll kind of get out? And I know there was a 2020 episode on him, but do you think he'll kind of get out and make himself known a little bit more? Or?
No.
Okay.
When was this?
His personality type.
He got out like 2020.
I don't even know when it happened.
But when were the murders, Walter?
Oh gosh.
80s.
It would have been. It would have been early mid 80s.
He's in Valley Mills, Texas, or Clifton. Valley Mills or Clifton?
He said Clifton.
Clifton.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
Well, so we're going to cover that episode on a month that we're doing guilty or innocent. And we're going to cover some of those cases that people debate on, like the Darlie Routier case and Jody Bryan case. And okay, I have a question. My cousin went to school with you or went to church with you, and she had a question she wanted me to ask. Well, let me see. I got to go to my text now.
Should I ask my question first?
Yeah.
It's pretty juicy.
Go.
So, so your wife taught my sister. And
Really?
yes, so my stepmom, Dee Dee Wolf, actually listens to the podcast. And so she knew that you were going to be coming on. So the question that we have for you was Alex her favorite student? That's what she said. Be sure and ask if Alex was her favorite student. So that's what I was supposed to ask you.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you that Alex is my favorite.
Oh, she's going to be so excited.
I mean, she already knows this because Alex took family pictures for us. And my wife passed away in January of 2011.
I'm
and,
sorry.
Yeah, and Alex took their Christmas pictures. She took family pictures for us in December, and they just really turned out well. I mean, Alex is just really,
I love it.
really good at doing that. Yeah, she gave us a memory we still have. So, yeah, I know she. I can't remember. She left something pretty nice. I remember at the funeral home. So, yeah, I don't think I have any favorite students. I know Alex was definitely up there, but I'm claiming her as my favorite.
Oh, she's gonna love that. Shout out Alex Wolf Photography.
Yay! She got a little commercial ad.
Yeah, she's really actually. Yeah, she just did my granddaughter's senior pictures. Probably.
Oh yeah, she does a great job.
I feel like your granddaughter was an athlete.
Wait, and then my oh my gosh, like one of my cousins, this is West for you. One of my cousin is Wyatt Wolf, and he is like dating your granddaughter.
Oh man, that is.
So Caroline's last name's Wolf, if you hadn't put that together.
Yeah.
She's a wolf.
We're basically related is what I'm saying.
Yeah, my granddaughter's going to she's a senior, but she's going to go play softball at Maryland.
Yeah,
Maryland.
I felt like it was far. I remember seeing that. Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of her.
Okay, so I think there's only like 2 more questions. I know you're probably tired of us. So this is my cousin who knew you growing up, and she is real Catholic, and she says you're real Catholic, and she basically, I think, started Catholicism. So she said, I think she started it. She says, was there ever a time that you felt like David Wayne Spence was guilty? Was there ever like one thing that you thought he was guilty? And then, so answer that first.
I mean, I think, I can't point to it, but, I think there's always, I don't care what case it is. I mean, I think there's always like times when you just kind of wonder if like your assessment of things is really accurate. So I didn't last very long if I ever thought he was guilty, but for almost everything, at least everything we get involved in, there's always sort of 2 ways to look at it. And I think you sort of always question whether you're looking at it the right way.
And okay, so I would say y'all mostly represent the bad guys, or at least the guy that seems like the bad guy at the time. And so when you represent that, like you probably have that question every once in a while. And so with you being a Catholic from West, this is literally what she's writing. Okay. And then if somebody gets off, and then maybe they're likely to kill again. How do you deal with that sense of responsibility, or do you have that at all?
I mean, that's sort of a question. Yeah, you're right. Everybody always asks that. My response is, first of all, that that's like something that generally only happens in TV and the movies.
Okay.
It doesn't happen very often that people walk on cases, and it for sure doesn't ever happen for people that like are really guilty and going to be a danger in the future. But I mean, the way that I look at it, no matter what, is that the system for the system to work, it requires like two sides, and it's not going to work if defense lawyers don't do everything they can to challenge the evidence and make the state prove their case.
I like it. I think that's all that I have. Is there anything that you felt like you didn't discuss about the David Wayne Spence case, or any of the cases?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, no, I don't know what it would be.
What is your most recent, I guess maybe most rewarding case where one of your guys have gotten off? Russ Hunt told us about Spratt.
Oh yeah, it's hard to top that one. Yeah, I mean, just recency. Always pops said I just had actually the first trial I think I've had since COVID. We tried a theft case in Coryell County that I truly didn't believe my client was guilty of what they were charging him with, and the jury agreed with us in about 5 minutes. So
wow,
So
that's nice.
Yeah, that's
it was a nice day. It was a nice way to end the year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
And since I know there was a delay in a bunch of the court cases, so are you going to have a busy 2022 with the cases that might have got pushed back because of COVID?
I mean, there's a good chance, yes. I mean, we're like looking at a spike again, so who knows what's going to happen. But I think everybody hopes that things are running normal again, and there's a lot of stuff backed up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so right now this is a free sponsorship for your office. What would you like our listeners to know about your practice right now? And then I'm going to let you, well, let's end this, and then I'm going to tell you about another opportunity. So go ahead and tell us what you'd like us to know about your office. What type of people should give you a call, or when, or why?
Yeah, I mean, we like to say we represent good people in bad situations. So we're a criminal defense firm, and we handle just about any type of criminal case. We especially like those cases where where they're good people who have done well and just make a mistake and don't want to have to live with that forever. We just added a brand new associate attorney who I think is going to be just fantastic, and we're just hoping to have a great 2022.
Oh wow! Okay, and you don't have to answer this. What did you think about the whole Seth Sutton?
I think there's a lot more to that than like has been in the paper.
Than what we know.
But that goes to trial in does it go to trial in February? Something happens in February.
I don't think that case is anywhere close to going to trial.
What's that?
And just as a practical matter, I don't think anybody that's actually on bond is going to be going to trial anytime soon, because there's so many people in jail that have been waiting there for a really long time to get to court.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Maybe a hearing. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know the Matt Baker case?
Yes.
Okay, well, I've been researching that case, and that I feel like that one was just like, it seemed, they go to civil trial, then there's criminal, and then there's go to the grand jury, and then it was dismissed, and then it came back, and
Yes.
I
It's
feel
a
like that
lot.
was kind of wild. Was that kind of a wild case, or I just don't know.
I remember it being that way. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But I remember it being a pretty interesting situation.
Yeah.
If you do anything on that case, you need to talk to Stan Schwieger.
Stan Schwieger? Who's Stan Schwieger?
Look at her. She didn't do her research.
No, I did, but I've never heard that Schwieger.
What did Schwieger do? And we need to know how to spell that last name.
SCHWIEGER.
Did you just make that up?
And what was his role?
So he represented. He handled the appeal.
Okay.
But just did a ton of work on it, and I think he ended up doing some other stuff too. But Stan knows everything. I think he knows just about everything there is to know about that case.
And is he still local?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And practicing maybe? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually right down. I could actually see his office from mine because he's in the St. Charles.
Nice. Nice.
building.
Okay. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. What I do want to tell you is we appreciate you so much for coming on. We just appreciate you. I know it's after hours, and Brittany told me y'all have a lot of people out that are sick. So thank you for your time and jogging your memory on multiple cases and not just David Wayne Spence.
Okay.
What I might do is we kind of randomly get texts about questions. And so I might send you an email, in a couple days after this airs and with a question, just so I can report back if I get any other questions that we haven't already asked. Are you okay with that?
Sure. Yeah. Just let me know.
All right.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening and tell Stan we may be calling him.
Oh, well, I will tell him so that he won't be ambushed.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all. That is it. Stay tuned for part.
Yes.
No, it's going to be part 1 for
Okay.
them. All right. We will see y'all Thursday for Matt Baker. Don't forget to
Stay aware.
stay alive.
And always be DTF.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.